we didn't learn anything about this at medical school. So it's the actual plant, the dried up plant.
And then you have to grind it.
Carcinogenic, even a wood fire smoke. So smoking is bad for you in that sense.
You have pain for more than 3 months, you have a chronic condition. They can be eligible to medical cannabis.
Can you just tell us the difference between sativa and indica?
So sativa, there is no strong scientific evidence that cannabis can cure cancer. But she is going to die in a few days, you can either leave her here or take her home. And he took her home, went on the internet, did his homework, found this very potent extract of cannabis with 60% THC.
Most of our medicines do come from nature. People might not believe this, but most. But is this synthetic
psychosis.
THC?
It's completely different. It's not even cannabis.
It's not THC and it's not cannabis.
It's not.
No,
it's just an artificial chemical that's resembling, and she does not even have a side effect.
And some people are hyper responders to codeine, and you never know who they are because it's a genetic thing. Imagine today someone invented a cigarette. How are they going to market it? And in fact, if it remains expensive, a big danger is that we know people are going to self-medicate.
If you tried still Nox and it gave you side effects, you can try cannabis.
Give these people alternatives, and I mean this isn't like a switch. You give some, you see if they're improving. If they're not, you stop it. Like anything else, if they're improving, you've just made the person's life better.
Guys, hi everyone. I would first like to welcome Chris, my resident scientific advisor.
Hello.
And Andrew, if you can just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I run the pain clinic in Paula. I'm originally a family doctor who took an interest in pain, and now I'm specializing in pain. And I've been very involved in the legalization of medical cannabis in Malta, and hopefully hope to keep on helping to make it more accessible to patients.
Nice.
Chris, another doctor. We actually studied together, worked together in A&E back in the day. I am now a specialist in anesthetics and ICU. At the inception of the pain clinic, I was involved to help Andrew. Our separate ways, concentrating on anesthesia, and my special areas of interest are expedition medicine, transfer medicine, and debunking the anti-science movement that's going all over the internet. But that's another story.
We'll be covering that too.
Oh, yeah,
Sure, John.
For sure, over many episodes, I hope.
What's that? All right. And today, our main topic today, Chris.
Main topic today is going to be we're honored to have Andrew here, who is going to help us discuss the legalization of marijuana in Malta, its uses, cannabis, yes, CBD, THC, all these things. We've got questions for you, Andrew, so get ready, I'll take it from there.
You emphasized cannabis instead of marijuana. There's a difference between marijuana and cannabis.
Well, technically it's the same thing, but marijuana is the name that was given, in America in the late 1930s, when it was actually demonized as the bad, drug.
Oh, so it was as a stigma.
And they didn't know that it was the same cannabis that they had been using for thousands of years as a medicine, They didn't want to, let people know that it's the same thing. They wanted to make it an evil thing. So marijuana is the evil name, that we don't really like. And the law was enacted in March of last year. And so we've been practically more than a year now with this law. And unfortunately, after more than a year, we still only have one product that's readily available, because there were another two that were approved, but they're out of stock at the moment. So Pedanios, which is also an approved strain, an approved product that's on the medical market, has two different strains, the Sativa and the Indica.
Okay, maybe for our audience, so you're talking about brands, the actual medical marijuana product, junior aspirin would be an aspirin, or paracetamol a Panadol is a brand for paracetamol, right? So you can tell us which are the two brands that have been approved for Malta.
So Bedrocan, which have a range of products with different CBD THC ratios, but the only one that was approved was the one with 22% THC, because it's the most used product in Holland, where it originates, and it's got high THC, which is the most medicinal cannabinoid, if you like, that...
By medicine, you mean like pharmacoactive, it has like effects on the body, or it has its most medicinal usages to treat ailments? What do you mean?
It's the most effective because basically with these cannabinoids, we're targeting a system, this homeostatic mechanism in the body that's responsible for maintaining a state of balance in the body. So making sure that everything is working well. Basically we target this system with cannabinoids. So there's mainly CBD and THC. Now CBD usually works by boosting the body's own endocannabinoids. And obviously if the person is sick and doesn't have enough endocannabinoids, it will not really work as it should. And THC is a phytocannabinoid, so it resembles the body's endocannabinoids and it works directly on the receptors. So it is obviously more effective and more stimulating because it directly interacts
makes
with
the receptors fire and have their
Exactly.
effect. Okay.
While the other one is more a reuptake inhibitor.
So you mentioned endocannabinoids. They're chemicals found in mammals and in us as well, like our hormones, right? And there's a whole system. The system where they are secreted and where they act. So that's the endocannabinoid system. I remember when we were medical students, we didn't learn anything about this at medical school.
It's obviously a very important missing part of the medical curriculum. And I mean, the first time I really looked into it, I mean, obviously I would have heard about it, but was when I started the whole pain clinic. This first patient came in and told me, that medical cannabis changed his life, and he was basically involved in an accident, had severe bone and muscle and nerve injuries. He had to learn how to walk again. And he was, given a lot of painkillers, opiates, antidepressants, and these medicines made him even worse, He became suicidal. And then he decided to go to Holland for a second opinion, and he was prescribed this medical cannabis. And he came back, and told me how he managed to stop all his medications and all his symptoms were relieved. And he explained, how the endocannabinoid system is involved in all these different functions in the body, and how by targeting it, you basically manage to resolve any problems or any issues that there are in the body, by restoring balance.
When did sort of the endocannabinoid system, when was it discovered or studied?
It was in 1964. There was Professor Raphael Meshulam who was experimenting on the effect of THC on the body, and he discovered, that we have this extensive system of receptors, which we still didn't know about.
So it's quite recent. So that could be one of the reasons.
1989, 1990, when the actual receptors CB1, CB2 were identified, and we actually learned about it. And since it was a stigmatized substance,
Exactly.
it was an illegal drug, and it was evil and all this, bad
So
stigma.
research in it is going to be stigmatized, might not get funding, and so everything was sort of held back.
That's why, because there is early research in the 1980s that CBD was actually found to be effective in epilepsy, but these studies were, withheld and tried to...
But how come CBD? Since it's not active the way THC is, like we said, it doesn't bind to the receptors and have such much of a pharmacological effect on the body. Why would CBD be associated with the THC? Everybody, even people in the street, and a lot of people know that THC is what as Mark puts it, gets you high, right? So it's the abusive potential part.
The thing is, CBD works best when there's something wrong, because basically it helps to restore what is wrong. So if you're a normal individual who doesn't really have any health or any issues, taking CBD isn't really going to make much of a difference, you know. But when you have actual health problems, it helps to restore balance by, you know, boosting the endocannabinoid system. And in combination with THC, they work synergistically, and together they have, you know, a very, very potent effect, because apart from working synergistically, and the CBD enhances the effect of the THC and vice versa, the CBD also attenuates the side effects of THC, like the psychoactive side effects.
Sometimes you can't replicate the, let's call it medicinal effect of certain plants just by extracting THC or CBD, because it's the interplay of the different cannabinoids.
Yes.
So the cocktail,
the
so to speak.
entourage effect, they call it.
Okay.
Sure, that what we have in Malta available to us is super high in THC and very low in CBD.
In CBD,
no?
yes.
And I think it's the extreme, Moosh.
Well, I mean, it's not the ideal first product that you would prescribe to a patient, you know, because we should try to at least give products that are, you know, less likely to cause side effects. So if you start with a CBD product, it would help to enhance the body's endocannabinoid system and make use of what chemicals are available already without the side effects of tolerance, you know, and dizziness and all that. But obviously, when CBD is not always effective enough, then THC is introduced. So having a product that is a THC containing product without CBD, that is a product that can only be vaporized to get the THC, is not the ideal product to have, you know, in a country where, I mean, the majority of patients aren't patients who you're going to give them something with THC to smoke, you know. You'd give them maybe some drops with CBD, you know, or maybe capsules or something that they can easily administer.
Issa, you mentioned vaporized, Lushek. So I have some questions here. There was one of the questions was somewhere here. Mela. One, what's legal, and the other one, what is the healthiest in your opinion? So one of the questions was, what's the healthiest way to consume medical cannabis? Is that smoking joints with tobacco, the vaporizer, juicing, or edibles? Palissa edibles we don't have, they're not legal.
No.
Vaporizer you mentioned, that's obviously legal. Juicing, I have no clue. And smoking joints, I was told, is illegal. Even though I have to ask, I don't know.
Technically it is.
It is.
It's prohibited that you smoke the product, you know, but...
So you can... So if you do have this prescription, so you are... Now we'll see what makes you eligible to be prescribed medical cannabis. Mela, but once you are, you're not allowed to smoke it with tobacco, even if you smoke cigarettes and legally, so you're a smoker, okay, and you're prescribed medical marijuana. You're not allowed to smoke the marijuana. You can only vape it. Check.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
What do the products look like? The ones that are the Bedrocan and the how do they come?
Nuggets, man.
The Bedrocan comes in 5-gram tubs with 5 grams of buds.
So it's the actual plant, the dried up plant.
And then you have to grind it, make it into a fine powder, and put it into the vaporizer, which, I mean, has been quite popular with even patients who were smoking their medicine all their lives for 30 years. Some started using the vaporizer, went down in dose from by half, you know, from for example 2 grams a day to 1 gram a day. It's obviously very safe and much cleaner for the lungs than smoking because it doesn't combust the actual plant material. and it just heats it, and it's a fine vapor, especially when the temperature is on the low side.
I mean, people with the product will probably do what they want in the house, and I don't think
Exactly.
law enforcement agencies are going to. So this is not medical advice, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are going to end up rolling their own joints. But something that they should know, especially if they're not smokers of normal cigarettes, is that there's this mistaken notion that because it's herbal. And you roll it, you don't have the negative effects of smoking, and most of the negative effects of smoking come because you're burning stuff. And when you burn stuff, you create loads of chemicals, and they're going to say, the hippies are going to jump and say, but the cigarette companies, tobaccos, they have treatments, they wash with certain stuff, there's the paper. It's true, there probably are more things to burn and more combinations to make all sorts of carcinogenic chemicals, but smoke is smoke, and all smoke, from anything, from oregano to anything, is carcinogenic, even a wood fire smoke. So smoking is bad for you in that sense. Now, that's exactly why vaporizers, I guess, vaporizers don't, if you want to maybe explain to the, vaporizers don't cause smoke, do they? That mist you see is not smoke.
No, it's a very sophisticated device that you have a heating chamber. You put the plant material in the heating chamber, close it shut, and put it on. And usually it heats up in a few seconds, heats up the heating chamber, then you inhale, it goes through a cooling unit, and it's just the vapor that comes out. So there's obviously the flavors of the plant, there's the terpenes, and this is another thing where you were saying, the interaction of all the plant chemicals. There's the cannabinoids, of which there are more than 100 different cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, and we're learning, every day new discoveries that this cannabinoid works for this works for this. We know a lot about THC, and we now know a lot about CBD as well. There's CBG, CBN, CBC.
What would the average person consume per day?
So the recommended medical device to consume the product is the Mighty Medic vaporizer, which takes these dosing capsules, which take 0.15 of a gram, and they give a good dose of THC to the patient who needs to, medicate with THC. And usually you'd need one every 6 to 8 hours, so 3 to 4 a day. So not more than half a gram a day, in the average patient.
So, because this is another question, it is possible and legal to take the device, obviously together with the medical marijuana, to your place of work, if you have.
It is legal, yes, because it's your medicine, for the time being, it's not readily accepted, even to prescribe it. It's a whole procedure, we need to fill in special papers, take full responsibility, wait for approval.
That's important. Everyone's going to want to know about the procedure, because in a lot of people's opinion, you can just go say you have a headache, and the next day you're buying medical marijuana. It's obviously not the case. So what is the procedure?
So for a patient to be eligible to get the medicine, they would have to have a chronic condition. So not something, like you get a one-off headache, or you have back pain because you have an injury or something. It's for chronic pain.
Could there be 3 conditions: chronic pain, MS, and side effects of chemotherapy?
Those are the 3 conditions where there is most scientific evidence that cannabis is effective. There is scientific evidence that it can be effective, but for any chronic, in Malta, we have a fantastic system, even though, we're always complaining because we're never happy. But there's actually a fantastic system, because anyone who has a chronic condition, so it's any medical condition, like pain for more than 3 months, we have pain for more than 3 months, you have a chronic condition, that they've tried at least one medication that hasn't completely controlled the symptoms, and that's very easy, they can be eligible to medical cannabis.
And you are one of how many doctors do you think prescribe cannabis?
There are a few, but I think there are another two who prescribe quite a lot. I don't really know who they are. And there's a few others who have a few of their own patients, who know they've been struggling with different, health issues, and they give them medical cannabis as a last resort to help them with their, maybe find a relief for their symptoms.
Iġifieri palissa tnajdu 3 to 4, maximum like 5 doctors palissa tipo prescribe, which is
Not a lot.
It's a low percentage.
I think it's because one, a lot of them don't know about it, or they feel like their reputation may be compromised because it's as we said, it's a topic that carries a thing. And two,
Very
like
true.
you said, Mark, they don't know the process. Like the patient knows the process. I mean, the process is cumbersome, and maybe it's not just in their routine. And it's a question of education and also making the process know how to onboard patients to this thing. So maybe you can elaborate a bit. I know you've mentioned already, so that the patients can go and bug their doctors, kind of thing. Because if there is evidence, if it's available, maybe a big proportion of doctors might need to get
The thing is,
updated.
a lot of doctors, I think, don't know enough about the endocannabinoid system to be able to prescribe a product that interacts directly with it and know how it's going to affect other, symptoms and other conditions that the patient might be suffering from. I mean, I've had patients who came to me because they had abdominal pain from Crohn's disease, for example, which is quite bad and not relieved with any conventional pill, that were using medical cannabis with very good success, a very good relief from the pain. They went to their consultant, told them that they were using the medical cannabis for the pain, and the consultant just told them, get out of my office and don't come back again, I'm not going to take care of you. And one of them ended up spending more than 2 months in ITU because he had a perforated bowel because his consultant didn't want to see him because he was taking this,
This is annoying.
Because, the consultants say, so if you're going to take this medicine, which they hear, that it has effects which they're not really studied, but it has a healing effect because it works on the system, which we've only just discovered. We're learning more about every day. We don't know anything about the cannabis plant because it was stigmatized and prohibited for so many years. And there isn't enough knowledge, but all these people are healing, from Crohn's, from cancer, from anxiety, depression, chronic pain.
This all started from Charlotte's Web.
Well, Charlotte's Web was one of the strains that helped with epilepsy.
Is anyone pushing to get a variety out there? Because at the moment it is 20% THC to 1% CBD and 22 to 1% again CBD. When do you think these are going to... Because I know that the strains that we had were out of stock a while back. So the demand is high. And we're still not getting enough from anyone else.
So basically there was the 2 strains of pedannios that were approved. There was the Sativa and the Indica.
Can you quickly just tell us the difference between Sativa and Indica?
So Sativa, the difference is it's not the amount of THC or CBD that they contain, because they contain very similar amount. They contain 20 and 22%. It's the terpenes and the flavors of the plant that make the difference on how...
Are they the name of the plant? What are they?
No, they're a type of plant. So Sativa strains are strains that tend to be more uplifting, energizing, and
But did they
help you
grow
focus.
somewhere in particular originally?
No,
or?
they have a different phenotype. They're tall and thin, while the indica are short and fat. That's the way the plant grows. But the effect is basically the terpenes, the different flavors in the plant, and the terpenes, apart from also having a therapeutic effect on the body, they change the way that THC and CBD interact with the receptors. So they change the effect. So 2 strains with the identical amount of THC, one of them can make you, energetic and be able to be more productive, and the other one can make you want to sleep. And
Mark, Andrew mentioned something important before I wanted to highlight. I don't know if you have something you want to...
Tell me.
before you were saying, we were talking, I think it's very important, you were talking about the basically bad reception or the problem patients get. So in an ideal world, doctors work together, you know, I mean, the same way a GP might send to a specialist, you know, to get, let's say, someone breaks a leg, get the knee replaced or whatever, and then goes back to the GP for the everyday care. You know, it's teamwork. But obviously, patient experience, unfortunately, in Malta, in some cases, is not. So, when you were mentioning how much it helps, all these, it is a very varied group of diseases. You also mentioned cancer. Now, as a doctor myself, or some others listening to this podcast, it might come on their ears like, this is too good to be true. He said cured from cancer. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Okay, so
to be honest, I find it hard to.
This issue with cancer, it's a very controversial issue. I mean, it's been the reason why I was threatened, you know, about a year ago when I was trying to, you know, do this teaching campaign. So there is no strong scientific evidence that cannabis can cure cancer. Mm-hmm. But there have been a lot of experiments in the lab and on animals, and there is quite substantial evidence that cannabinoids can have anti-tumor effects in various ways, by various mechanisms.
But when we say cancer, you know as much as I that cancer is like saying, I got sick. Sick with what, right?
Exactly.
They're all bad, yes, but there's a whole range. In fact, every cell in your body can become cancer and can become cancer in different ways. Now, some more than others, right? So, is it a general therapeutic effect in some cancers? Do you know any of the studies or examples at least?
So there are studies. So, for example, when someone comes with cancer, and they want to try and maybe help the, you know, cancer from being less aggressive, you know. I mean, a cure can never be promised, you know, because obviously there is not enough evidence. But there is a lot of evidence that cannabis can help ease the symptoms associated with cancer, you know, like, for example, nausea and loss of appetite, especially associated with chemotherapy. Pain relief from the actual cancer, relief from anxiety, you know, relief from fear of death, you know, and all these.
Those are more, for me, even pharmacologically, easier to understand because you're talking about symptomatic relief, but actual help in tumor remission.
On the remission, there's, like we said, not enough scientific, but lab studies show that, for example, in glioblastoma multiforme, which is a brain tumor which is quite aggressive,
one of those
there have been lab studies that show that it has anti-tumor effect. And I had one patient who had a very aggressive glioblastoma who was discharged from the oncology after having had chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all the works, you know, discharged to her husband, and they told him, you know, she is going to die in a few days. You can either leave her here or take her home. And he took her home, went on the internet, did his homework, found this very potent extract of cannabis with 60% THC, made suppositories, and gave her a high dose of THC for months. And she literally started improving very slowly. I mean, now what was happening, we don't really know. I mean, the scan, which was done a year after, I mean, the consultant was surprised, you know, when he saw her, like, he thought she was going to be dead in a week, and she was back after a year. He was like shocked. They did a scan and it had progressed, you know, so we don't really know why she survived a year. It might have maybe stopped it from being so aggressive, but it didn't cure her. I mean, she eventually passed away. But it did something.
So it could be an interesting adjunct therapy for things.
It's definitely something that should be used for palliative care because, for example, morphine alone isn't enough, you know, and it can cause quite unwanted side effects.
I've got lots of experience with opiates in my job, and we use it. I mean, anesthesia has a branch, chronic pain, but our main experience is in acute pain, so pain of the operation of that time. And we know that in the long use, they're not very useful. In fact, they're more harm than good. Opiates, there's lots of side effects. Many won't go into it now, but we are aware. And I think around the world, definitely the use of cannabis and cannabinoids as a treatment for this type of chronic pain is not something I think a grey area. It's becoming quite mainstream.
No, yes, it is. In America, I mean, it's been used for quite a number of years, especially Canada and California. And we learn a lot, from these people because they have years of experience, and they're seeing very, very good results,
I mean, let's be clear. Like, one case of anything is not important. People always have an unknown that smoked everything and lived till 100 and 2, and doctors don't know what they're saying. In science, one case is nothing, but it's definitely interesting. And in fact, one of the reasons why we need more awareness, because unless you study what you don't know, and the studies are there and it becomes mainstream, there's, in my opinion, no reason why, especially work on this subject, should be mainstream. We'll always end up with anecdotes, with half-truths, with lots of these things. So I think, especially in the case of cannabis, it's been research and meaningful application has been delayed because of this demonization or the stigma. Yes, I mean, which is unfortunate. Most of our medicines do come from nature. People might not believe this, but nearly all the medicines we make and the initial effects, they all come from, not all, but at least 90%.
I'd just like to mention this other case, like we're on the subject. There was this other patient who was a 50-year-old man with metastatic cancer. And he also was very desperate, he had stage 5 cancer, it was metastasized, and he also, got a very highly concentrated extract of THC and started medicating with it. And he actually had tumor markers which went down, significantly.
Again, interesting.
And also his clinical condition, he was, one day very disabled and unable to get out of bed and no energy at all. And then, within a few weeks, he was building a whole bedroom from IKEA.
Improved.
Every case is different too.
Yeah, so
I heard the same success stories with half a squeezed lemon and bicarbonate soda in the morning.
They're not, wait.
There's a lot of...
In Andrew's defense, tumor markers went down. So there was an objective clinical test that has showed an improvement, because patient anecdote is not enough. I know what you're referring to, lots of stories. I know a guy who says he treats his arthritis and he believes it, and I have no reason to doubt that he believes it, but I couldn't stop laughing. He sprays Solvits on his joints, the lubricant. It's not a joke. And I'm sure all doctors that worked in general practice or in A&D have loads of these stories. But another thing I wanted to say is that these cannabinoids, as from what I know, they're not, like as an adjunct therapy, they're not dangerous. They're even less interactive than alcohol, for example. So having them in palliative care and having
they're extremely safe.
They do not interfere with established treatments.
Exactly.
Do they? I mean, exactly.
With regards to that, you mentioned they're extremely safe because they're regulated.
They're regulated.
They are. Issa, what about CBD oil? Because that doesn't seem to be regulated.
CBD oil is supposed to be regulated in the same way as THC as a medicine.
Very quickly, what is CBD oil?
CBD oil is an extract made with CBD, which is a substance that is extracted from hemp and has medicinal properties. It's a cannabinoid that's found in the cannabis plant and more in the hemp plant, because hemp plants have high CBD. And it's very popular around the world as a food supplement, legally available over the counter in many health shops like Holland and Barrett in the UK.
So they've kind of made this illegal, because there was a grey area. It was
it's still a grey area because it's legal throughout Europe, America and Australia as a food product,
But the reason why it's not legal or in certain countries is not because it's an unregulated product.
Because it's a cannabinoid.
Because it's associated to marijuana.
Exactly.
I think it's because of how the law was written in Malta, right? Any extract of the cannabis plant is illegal.
Is illegal.
Even the parts, anything that's processed from the plant is illegal, even if it has no pharmacological effect. In fact, CBD oil has been around. It's like taking cod liver oil. There's no abuse potential. It doesn't get you high. You know, people, if you take CBD, don't feel different in any way. And that's why it was held. It's sold all over Europe and still is in food supplement shops.
The reason why I was asking was I saw a study that like a high percentage of the CBD oils that they tested had synthetic marijuana, which I'd really like to talk about, and a compound of cough syrup in CBD oil, which is very synthetic marijuana and cough syrup, which is obviously a big no, naħseb man CBD oil.
I mean, if a lot of problem with food supplements shops is that they're not regulated, and medicines are, right?
That's it.
So an advantage of having things regulated would be you can't sell something and then it's not that thing. I mean, if you go to a medicine, let's say a Panadol or something, and you take it to university and they test and it doesn't have, with these are things that are easily done.
Yeah, in fact,
the company gets in trouble.
Issa malaya, she get all these big pharma companies now talking about it. Synthetic. What's the difference between the synthetic version?
So the story with synthetic is mainly the fear is of synthetic THC, which is freely available over the internet as spice and all these basically potpourri, which is sprayed with this chemical that interacts with the cannabinoid receptors in the body. So it's legal, you know.
And they're selling it as potpourri, you check.
So,
but side effects, no?
But so cannabis is a partial agonist. So it partially interacts with the receptors, and it has a certain effect on the body, which is, to a certain extent, it's not really that bad, you know. It can't really harm the body in a bad way.
Technically, an agonist would be something, these receptors talked about earlier, an agonist would be something that activates the receptor fully.
All right.
And does the whole intended response, whatever that response may be, secreting a hormone, producing the things, sending nerve impulses, whatever. A partial agonist has some effect, but not the maximal effect. So THC, being similar to the receptors in our body, are not made for the chemical in the plant. It just so happens that the chemical in the plant resembles our own endocannabinoids, they're called. So it's a partial agonist. Now the synthetic one was designed from the ground up to mimic and make a full effect on our. So the physiological effect, which means the effect on the body, is different. And
it's much stronger. So all the side effects are pronounced. So you get people, you know, who are pretty normal, they smoke synthetic THC and they're in Mount Carmel for 3 months, you know, hallucinating.
You've come across these patients?
I mean, I hear from psychiatrists, you know, that's why they're so terrorized by this cannabis,
but is this
causing
synthetic
psychosis.
THC?
It's completely different. It's not even cannabis.
It's not THC and it's not cannabis.
It's just an artificial chemical that's resembling, a cannabinoid.
It's affecting it's working on the same pathways,
system.
But it's having a different effect.
Euphoria as well. It causes the high.
So it's adding to the bad name of cannabis.
Exactly, because it's not really, and that is why Malta, is in such a bad state, because you have basically, so the only legal product that you have is a product with high THC that is super expensive, extremely complicated to obtain, the doctor has to take full responsibility, and obviously not many doctors are ready to take that responsibility for a patient to use a high THC product and be able to drive, so for every application that I have to fill, I have to go against the superintendent's advice to not allow the patient to drive. And it's my responsibility every time.
And so if a GP had to prescribe a similar, but a drug, medicine, that has its side effects and it also has its, what are those cautions?
Cautions,
don't use heavy machinery and all that stuff. So if they prescribe that and something happens to the patient, are they, they're not liable? They don't get Doesn't the blame go to the drug?
The thing is,
so what's it?
yes, I mean, patients get, prescribed codeine every day, and they don't even think twice about telling them this might cause sedation. They just go, Solpadol, 30 milligrams codeine, 2 tablets every 4 hours, to an old woman, for the first time, and she gets totally knocked out with it, vomiting sometimes,
Esatto.
and she does not even għandu side effects.
And some people are hyper responders to codeine, and you never know who they are because it's a genetic thing. So you're giving them codeine thinking it's a moderate opiate effect, and then it will have like you've given them morphine. And in fact, codeine's been pulled back in children because these hyper metabolizers, whatever they're called, these hyper responders, sorry, not metabolizers, hyper responders, some of them stop breathing because that's an effect of all opiates.
Issa, tajab, man, you mentioned children, because there was another question. Legal, medical marijuana, is there a minimum age? Can you recommend it to kids?
You can recommend it to anyone, but the doctor is fully responsible for his prescription, for whatever happens to the patient. For
Isn't he fully responsible if it was another drug?
Yes, but in this case, they need to sign specific documents, legal documents, and they're fully responsible.
They're prescribing something natural.
No, but Mark, it's stupid, I agree. And there are many things, like Andrew mentioned, that are prescribed that have the potential for all sorts, even a glass of wine, right? I mean, people have a glass of wine and they don't sign disclaimers and they go and drive. It's within the limit. But if it were a medicine, it's very easy to say, when I had a glass of wine, don't sign any important documents, don't do heavy machinery. In fact, we tell all patients who have taken an anesthetic, even though most very well will be capable of doing it, but there are lingering effects, we know of them. But the thing is, what's happening is, it's new, it's got a bad name. Things we're used to, you don't think of. Imagine today someone invented a cigarette. How are they going to market it? Imagine, or someone invented alcohol. It's a neurotoxin, it causes accidents, causes unwanted pregnancies, lowering your standards in aesthetics when choosing a mate, whatever. But you know what I mean?
Imagine sugar.
Imagine sugar as well, causing premature death, obesity, diabetes. The problem is we're used to it. Alcohol and tobacco have been with us for a very long time. So this is something new. It's got the spotlight on it. It's hot. So people are afraid. If you're a doctor barely getting by, you're seeing all these patients and so on. Then the last thing you want is a hassle or somebody to say it's your fault. So a lot of them will take the safe step and say, I'm gonna wait. Or I'm not. I've worked without it all these years. I don't need the hassle.
True. Malay, man. Because it is an alternative. Ushek.
It's an alternative and an adjunct. Not only an alternative.
A gram in Malta costs
16 euros.
16 euros, type. And some would be prescribed anywhere from half a gram to a gram per day. Ushek. Isu. Ġbaħna tnajdu 8 to...
It depends. I mean, the dose is very variable, In Germany, for example, it's 25 euro a gram. So comparing
Is it that much, Vera?
We're not, we are expensive compared to the black market, but don't forget, you have a medicinal product that's been tested, it's gone through a certain...
quality assurance.
For what it is, I think it's a good price. The only, issue that there is that there isn't enough variety, It's always just one strain. People tend to get tolerant to it. And
the reason why I brought this up, I had no idea that Germany was so expensive, is because they got the top 10 strains in Denver and Colorado, top 10. And they got an average price per gram. And that was $4.27 per gram. So the US, man, they have it
cheap.
good.
We'll get there, too.
Ooh. So we'll are paying 4, 8, 12, 16. We're paying 400%.
But don't forget,
more,
this is a medicinal product, being controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. It's only available from a pharmacy with a doctor's prescription,
How many pharmacies currently?
Well, you can order it from any pharmacy,
Okay.
but a few just decide to stock them, because they have patients who go there.
All right.
But eventually, I mean, this system that they have in Colorado is very different from what we have in Malta, and eventually this is where we need to
Go.
It
will. At least it's a
eventually.
start. And in fact, if it remains expensive, a big danger is that we know people are going to self-medicate.
Exactly. So at the moment, the problem is that we have the legal product that's super expensive. We have the black market that is still, supplying the patients, but obviously not all patients are ready to go to the black market. Plus, you don't know what you're getting, I mean...
And there's no way of knowing what you're getting.
There's no way of knowing.
No, even if they tell you.
So if you want to know what you're getting, if you had to grow your own, let's assume that you have the correct paperwork. Let's assume that you're eligible for this, for medical marijuana. Can you grow your own, a plant too? Not, I mean, personal use. It's still illegal, but... Or not?
As far as I know, you are allowed to grow up to one plant if you can prove that it's for your own medical use. And if you don't, go posting photos of it on Facebook. So you have to do it in your own private home.
So as long as no one knows.
No, because, I mean, people have done it and, they got into trouble for posting photos of it, but...
So it's not illegal, but you...
But
no
don't,
one must know.
As this issue.
And if you get caught, you need to prove that it's for your medical
purpose.
use,
There is no way. It's going to be hard to let's say you want to replicate a medicinal product in the what do you call it, in the ratios and so on. It's going to be very hard. There are ways you can take a sample to university. Now, this is not a service, so they're going to probably jump on me. But if somebody had to test, what they do is they put it in a mass spectrometer. It's a machine. It vaporizes everything. And then there'll be a trace on a graph, and you can tell every single thing that was in it. So every compound, because every compound has a signature. That's how they do with street drugs when they say it's 10% this. That's what they do.
Oh.
So you can test anything.
If I had to, if one of our listeners has chronic pain, if they're suffering from effects of chemotherapy, or is your glaucoma, epilepsy, PTSD, nausea, these fall under, like, legally, if someone comes in, suffering from PTSD or nausea.
PTSD is very...
It is recognized, though. It is. It falls under
any chronic condition, even anxiety, even insomnia. If you tried still knocks and, it gave you side effects, you can try cannabis.
Cool. So what's the first step they should take? They need to see who?
They need to go to their GP.
Or if their GP doesn't want, they need to come to you. Check.
Yeah, we can put your details in the description if patients want.
For sure.
If they can't find a doctor who will prescribe cannabis, I will.
It is. It's a good alternative. And the tests, this takes the duration, or the application?
Usually the application takes 2 weeks. The patient has to fill in a questionnaire, which is a treatment agreement between the patient and the doctor. It's like an agreement that the patient has to use it as prescribed. He mustn't abuse it. He mustn't drive under the influence. He needs to be monitored regularly. All these things that have been, documented in other countries, that, the doctor needs to agree that the patient is going to use it as recommended. And the patient signs in the presence of a witness. And then, we can start sending the application, which we can decide whether the patient needs 1 gram a day or more. And then the patient will also need a control card, which is this small card which needs to be signed every time the patient gets a prescription, just to make sure that, he's being controlled. The application takes about 2 weeks to be approved. And then when it gets approved, the patient gets notified, they come with the control card, get the prescription, go to the pharmacy and get the medicine.
That's straightforward, man. It's
The thing is, the first allowance is a 15-day allowance. So it's like a test, and then they have to come back, get another, medical report, get a kind of feedback on how they're doing, send another application, wait another 2 weeks, and then they get approved for 30 days. And the same thing, after 30 days, they need to come back, get
wow.
So
So
it's
every
like
30 days you need to go
Well, I
back?
mean, it's 15, 30, and then 6 months
Okay.
for the applications. So until they get into the system, they need a bit of feedback.
I mean, I predict that this stuff will become more lax in the future. I mean, it's a good start, From
It's a good start.
zero to being
Exact.
available, it's a big deal. So we take what we got, and I'm sure in the future it will be.
Type, cool. All right, Chris, anything else, yo?
About what specifically?
With regards to this.
No, I mean...
For me, the future. That's. I mean,
I
the
want-
system as it is, it's not really the way the patients want it and the way the patients need it. Patients need, yes, if they need medical advice, they go to their doctor, they go to their specialist, get advice on, what medicines can help and what not. But for this product that is already readily available so easily from the black market, and it's most times not safe. Patients are using these products because they can't afford to go through the legal route. These patients need to find they have to have a safe alternative. So the best way is to regulate, these products, CBD, THC, flowers, edibles, whatever, in regulated outlets where patients go or users go, they have a recommendation from their doctor or whatever, to use cannabis for their condition. They might, get a bit of advice from their doctor on what preparations might help. Then they go to the dispensary. They have 500 to 1,000 different products, to choose from. They have trained personnel who will, take them around, give them advice on the edible is good for the night, this is good for, during the day, and...
So we just have one. These 5 foreign companies, or 5 or whatever, how many, they're buying up land, they're going to be growing, harvesting, and whatever. Will this be to provide our market? Are they going to be exporting? We're going to have more to choose from soon?
We will have more to choose from. But I think the main market is Europe, it's not Malta, but hopefully, I mean, the Maltese market ones, there are actually 10 who have been approved, as far as I know. There's going to be a choice, hopefully, of products eventually, but it's still,
ideally,
very,
there would
very
be
slow,
no monopoly or something like that, because we need that.
And it's... because of this whole process that the patient depends on. I mean, I've had patients, young patients with metastatic cancer, who are vomiting and in severe pain, and they have to wait 2 weeks, for a signature
For our audience,
to be able to start taking this medicine.
metastatic cancer is cancer that has spread. That's what it means for the people seeing this. So very advanced, usually what we call end stage. So you're just helping them be comfortable till they die, unfortunately. And obviously anything that can improve comfort and quality of life is
and they have to wait 2 weeks, to get approved. I mean,
no exceptions.
It's not.
And in these people where our aim is not to cure, but to improve their quality of life, even more, we could be liberal. I mean, we're liberal with much stronger medication, so to speak, in inverted commas, like opiates and so on, which have their place, but we do give this stuff with the known side effects and everything. Why are we afraid to give these people alternatives? And I mean, this isn't like a switch. You give some, you see if they're improving. If they're not, you stop it, like anything else. If they're improving, you've just made the person's life better. And there's a lot of evidence in palliative care. I do have one thing if we want to end.
No, yeah, of course.
Just take home message. Do not, if you're someone suffering from a chronic condition, going to a specialist and under their care, don't quit, leave, and then say, I heard this program, cannabis is going to cure me. I mean, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's an adjunct. I mean, these are treatments that, one, symptomatic can help you, and they might help your ongoing treatment. You might even reduce your treatment, yes, but this would be a process, and it's always a process that needs to be monitored by a doctor. So no drastic measures, because that's one thing that will give it a bad name. When people go, they're being cared for by someone, and suddenly they just stop everything because they heard something, and you run into trouble. And then on the other hand, there are success stories where people have been weaned off their lots of pain medication and so on, and have improved quality of life. But it's a process.
It's a process, and the main target is to ease the symptoms, ease the suffering. It's not to cure or to.
Exactly.
This isn't a miracle medicine. It's a very useful medicine that works to ease symptoms in many different conditions, but obviously it needs to be used under medical supervision.
How many people are currently being treated by medical marijuana?
I think it's more than 200 now.
Ooh, it's a big jump. Man.
Well, it was 100 in November, and since then...
It's going up steady.
I mean, there's more doctors prescribing, and...
that's good.
It's growing.
So the number's growing. Cool. That's pretty much it. We had to have some kind of a disclaimer, no?
No, why?
To make sure that they don't do something stupid, no, because it's all with doctors.
The disclaimer is that this is not...
It's what you just said.
What I just said, and always continue going to your doctor, don't self-medicate and don't do any drastic measures. Take after advice. This is an educational thing, not a prescriptive program.
Correct. Educational video, just in case. Cool, man. Tayyip. That's it. It's a wrap. Thank you. Guys, Chris and Andrew, you can find Andrew at the Pain Clinic or check. Pain Clinic is in Paula or Paula. Pain Clinic is in Paula, so find him .com.mt. Mark and Chris Gauci. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.